Hey everyone, Season 7 of The Dragon Prince has officially released earlier today. This marks the end of not only an era, but the end of Arc 2, Mystery of Erebos, and potentially the end of the show entirely. While that is a very loaded statement and puts a lot of pressure on the season itself, it is also important to recognize and look at the season with that in mind. However, today we are not going to be talking about that aspect of it at all. Rather, I will give you my first impression and a review of Season 7 Dark, since I know very well that not all of you were able to watch it at the moment it came out or haven't been able to watch any of it yet. This will be a fully spoiler-free review, and more content with spoilers will be coming out soon enough. With those boundaries set though, there is still a lot to say about the new season, as my head has only been buzzing with thoughts surrounding it ever since I finished watching it. So the big question hovering over Season 7 Dark of The Dragon Prince remains: is it good? But more importantly, is it able to conclude the series in a satisfying way? Yes, kinda. The season itself was a lot of fun to watch. I laughed quite a bit and there were emotional moments and the stakes felt very present. In my opinion, this was one of the best parts of the season. That although in retrospect the stakes are technically lower than in previous seasons, when it mattered, the show was able to make them feel like an actual threat. The other positives of the season are that characters were shown to make very bold choices, which felt more impactful than in previous seasons. How exactly I feel about every choice and whether they feel coherent with the character is something to discuss later with spoilers, but I think the very fact that we could see characters act much bolder in this season added to the overall dread that loomed over it all. The action sequences in this season were also quite a mixed batch, to be honest. Some felt quite samey to other things that we have seen already, but others felt a lot more fleshed out, carrying actual weight. Surprisingly, there was an extraordinarily little amount of genuine action scenes in this season, which is quite unusual for The Dragon Prince. The other thing I mentioned earlier is that I laughed quite a bit while watching the season. I think some of the jokes just genuinely landed a lot better than they did in previous seasons, and they feel much more connected to the actual scene playing out rather than just added to have some sort of comedic relief. However, some of the times where I had to laugh happened because of how out of pocket this season was. Some of these were supposed to be out of pocket for this comedic effect, but I think sometimes I was supposed to take it seriously, but just with how it all happened, I couldn't and could only resort to laughing. I guess that is overall okay since the show is there for entertainment purposes, but it didn't help in some scenes that were supposed to be otherwise very impactful and even emotional. The animation was also something that I've seen a couple of people talk about already, but it does just look unfinished at times. Not as much the animation technically, more the character detailing, where the inconsistencies between shading and lighting from scene to scene can just be off-putting and distracting, for me at least. If you're not someone to notice that, or the fact that characters don't look like they are animated in the same world as the environment and just floating on a backdrop, then that shouldn't affect your Season 7 viewing experience at all. Speaking of inconsistencies, I think the biggest gripe I have with the season is the inconsistent power dynamic between characters. This is something that you can use quite effectively to build and break down characters, even a tool to create a sense of dread, urgency, or create emotionally powerful scenes. However, in this season, it felt so all over the place with multiple characters that it was hard to really care for things in the same way as it could have been if power dynamics were clear. They should shift, even within the same episode, but in a way that makes sense within the scope of the character and the scene that leads to this change. Finally, I just want to address the question of, does Season 7 offer a complete and satisfying ending to the show? In a word, no. Some storylines and characters are given satisfying endings. However, too much was left open and too much just straight up was not given a conclusion. The ones we did get felt unwarranted or incomplete, but technically I guess the show could end here and it would make some sort of sense. The biggest problem overall is the lack of payoff for many built-up storylines and details. Obviously, I won't spoil anything as to what happens exactly, but I think that just even within the season, but more painfully things from previous seasons that were built up and seemingly put a lot of value on just don't have very satisfying conclusions to them. Again, I really do not want to spoil anything for those of you who haven't seen the season yet, so I'll leave this part at that. But just know that I will cover this far more extensively in future videos. Maybe I'll even get its own dedicated video since there is a lot to cover. Unfortunately, it's not limited to just things that happen in previous seasons, but even things that are built up in season 7 itself just fall flat. They either don't get any payoff or the payoff feels out of place. If you like the Dragon Prince, or even just animated or even just fantasy TV shows, you will most likely enjoy this season. I did too. However, I come at this from a point of passion which stemmed from the original 3 seasons. In the context of the Dragon Prince, this season just really is not among the best. It's enjoyable and very consumable, but falls apart quickly when taking a closer look. I don't want to take away any enjoyment you will find watching it, and I suggest you do, just to be able to make up your own mind and not just listen to some random guy on the internet who named himself after dried grass or anyone else. My original score right after I finished the season was a 7.5 out of 10, which quickly became a 7 out of 10, and now I'm even leaning slightly lower. But I'm curious to hear your opinions once you've seen the season. There are interesting conversations to be had surrounding the writing of the show and season in particular, and I'm interested in that. One last thing I probably should have talked about before is the fact that dark is a subtitle of the season. I don't care what others say, but this subtitle has no bearing on the season whatsoever. I could think of 3 other seasons that would fit more towards that title than season 7, and it really is not that dark thematically either. Coming from the ending of season 5 and then all of season 6, this either barely reaches that level or isn't even close to being as dark as those seasons. I think a different subtitle could have fit better, but for that we would need to go into spoiler territory. That will only happen in the next video though. I think I'll try to cover my overall review and analysis of season 7 next, but for those of you who are interested, I have 2 incredibly fun things coming up. Firstly, if you head down to the description and join our Discord channel, you can join me and some others in the community for a watch party of season 7 on Saturday. All the details are in the Discord and you're more than welcome to join, even without wanting to be a part of the watch party. We talk about the Dragon Prince and all sorts of crazy things there. Speaking of crazy, I will also be going live at some point in the weekend. When exactly is still a little unclear for me, but I'll keep you posted on Discord and here on YouTube. We will be able to talk all about season 7 there, answer questions, ask more, and theorize a bunch. I would really love to have you there. That's all for today though. Thank you so much for watching this far and supporting the channel. You could even become a member for like $3 a month if you like, for early access to videos and just to support me. But all content will be available for everyone, so don't worry if you can't or don't want to. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being a part of this community. Take care. Bye.